at this land, and he grieves because it's just going the way of everything else in the world. And God looked at, see, God made all the little people that lived in Sodom. He made them. He fashioned them in the womb. He wrote their DNA according to His Word, and He put His breath in them. And then God looks at their despicable acts, and He's grieved in His heart. I'm grieving that way for America. I mean, this is hitting me hard. I am grieving that way for America. So Genesis 19. There came two angels to Sodom at even. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. Verse 4, the Bible says, before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young. I've talked about on this broadcast before, if you think that there isn't a homosexual in the school building where your child goes to school, you're wrong. You're wrong. I'm just telling you that right now. The way things are in this country, I almost guarantee you there's a homosexual in the school building, employed by the school district in your school. And no, they may not feel up your child, but they're there for a reason. They have an agenda. They have an agenda to get their lifestyle accepted by children, so that when that generation grows up, oh, he's just a guy. He's a great guy. You know, and what's wrong with him, you know, being with another man? I mean, they're married, right? That's what that's all about. The sodomite crowd wants to go after the kids. And so here they are, both old and young. Little guys. All the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them unto us, that we may know them. Because I'll tell you, and not just sodomites. So let's just say that this applies to everybody in the way of sex. When it comes to that urge in lost people, it is nearly uncontrollable. And they're constantly going around. I don't care if they're gay, straight, whatever. They're constantly going around looking for the next person to sleep with. That's all they think about. That's all they think about. They've slept with one, they start looking for the next one. I know people like this. I know people that's all they think about. I used to work in construction, so I know these guys. Always looking for the next gal to sleep with. Always looking for the next chick to shack up with. I mean, that's all they know. That's how they spend their life. So these angels come into town. What is this? First thing these guys jump in their mind. We're going to sleep with that guy. It's the first thing. That's all they can think about. Their minds are corrupt. So it's not just the homosexuals. It is the perversion of America. That's all they want to do is just set their eyes on somebody. Yeah, I won't sleep with that. That's all they know. Genesis 19 verse 6, and Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have two daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do you to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And in verse 9, they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. You know, isn't that what you hear? You're judging us. You're judging. You know, the Bible says not to. The people who don't care anything about the Bible. They don't care anything about it. And they definitely do not have any plans of living their life according to the Bible. As soon as you say one thing about their lifestyle, you're judging us. The Bible says not to judge. You're judging us. And this is what they're saying to Lot. You're judging us. Here's something else. These men were so depraved in their minds. They had what the Bible calls inordinate affections. unordinary affections. Affections that are not according to ordinance. In other words, what's ordinary or established. I mean, it's normal. In the entire animal world, it is normal for male to be attracted to female and vice versa. But now we live in a world where the affections are inordinate. They're not ordinal or ordinary. They're not. And these guys, upon being offered the 2 virgin daughters of Lot, they said, "Get out of our way. Who made you a judge over us?" And so here we have a minority of people in America who said, "You know what? Your bands will no longer control us. Get out of our way. We have the money. We have the smarts. We have the connections. We will do whatever we want to do." I'm going to show you what they're doing. They tried to break the door down. Genesis 19 verse 16, "While he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him." You ought to thank God. I'm going to stop right here. I wonder, and I don't really wonder too much, but I have a very strong conviction and a feeling that inside of practically every church in America, there are people who struggle with practically every kind of sexual deviancy in every church in America. Those of you who watch this broadcast probably in some way or some fashion struggle. Okay? You may not be queer. Okay? You may not want to go after some other guy or some gal if you're a woman. But some sort of deviancy, something that is outside of the bonds between a wife and a husband, you probably struggle with that. Lot was vexed by Sodom. It was starting to have an effect upon him. And he got out just in time, the Lord being merciful to him. So here's what we don't do. What we don't do is stand up on our moral, righteous high horse and say, "God forbids that. That's evil." And you know, it is evil, and God does forbid it. But we don't stand on any moral high ground and say, "Well, I'm normal." I cannot begin to tell you the stories that I've heard and the things that I know has happened and is going on in churches all across this country, even with pastors. They're going on. And the problem has been all along is that we've taken all these things and just kind of acted like they didn't happen, it didn't exist, and it's not really a problem with us. The homosexuals are taking over. And yet, while there's so much sin in our own churches and our own homes, the Lord has been merciful to us. He has. And He's taken us out of that. You ought to tell Him thank you. Now look at Genesis 19 verse 24. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And He overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. You know, I've had the opportunity. When I was in college, I went on a singing tour with a group from the college that we were going around the country. And I remember wanting to take this tour because I would get to see the whole country. So I left this little Bible college in Moore, Oklahoma in 1985 in May. And we left that afternoon, and the next morning I was standing at the rim of the Grand Canyon, 19 years old, and I was just going, "Oh, that's amazing." I got to see the Grand Canyon, went through the deserts of New Mexico and Arizona into California. Got to swim in the ocean with the dolphins at Huntington Beach, California.